2024 is in full effect, and it is a presidential election season, a presidential election year. And so this man, I believe this is a man, and he's 58 because it says starting over at 58. He asked this question: how do you handle politics in dating? He says, there would have been a point where I never would have imagined this question. The world just seemed to be different, less wanting a fight. But today, politics are so polarizing and pushed to the extremes that it really concerns me in dating. I have even watched it cause a rift between my ex and my daughter recently. The strange part is that they really aren't that far apart. Both sides were just ready for conflict. He says, I see far too many women in my age group supporting a side that I just cannot agree with on a moral level. I think if I showed up and saw a Trump pin, I might just walk away. Politics were even a factor in the end of my second marriage. She began to see every white male through the same lens. Have you had this challenge? So I believe that this is a great discussion point. I know that we have seen articles where, dating and politics is definitely very polarizing, and you can understand that, especially if you are a woman who believes that women should have basic human rights and that politicians shouldn't be able to override your right to live or doctor's advice and that kind of thing. Do you think that women should have these types of rights? Cool, we can talk. If you don't believe that, then we might have some conflict. So I do want you guys to weigh in on that. Let's see some of the comments on this. This person says, extreme differences in political views are often a sign of an underlying incompatibility since it represents a big difference in values. Moderate differences can be worked around or may simply be a non-issue, much like having some different hobbies or interests. I always try to talk about politics at some point with the woman I'm contemplating dating. How she conducts herself during the discussion tells an awful lot, not only her views and opinions. I agree. You got to have this discussion before you get too emotionally invested, because for some of us, politics is definitely personal, because some politics it really does impact your life. It's not just talking simply about roads and, it's not just that. It's how these people are really trying to dictate your life. This person says, politics are a representation of values to me. I don't date people who have substantially different values than I have. This person says, I agree. I can't understand not caring. I actually feel like I understand people who are diametrically opposed to me more than I understand people who have no opinion. I agree. Tell me where you stand. Don't be wishy-washy. Wishy-washy people will go along to get along and not cause conflict. I need to know where you stand. I don't like fence sitters. This person says, interesting. I'm not from the States, so maybe I see it differently. There's not a single party in my country that I align 100% with, or whose policies I agree with 100%, so I'm the opposite. I definitely do not see the political party I voted for or the people in it to be a representation of my values at all. In fact, I think all politicians have to have a broken moral compass to be where they are. So the last thing in my life is that is a representation of my values is a political party or the people within that party. Stevie lives life absolutely has, have that opinion, have that belief. I don't know if this is a man or a woman because Stevie can be, gender neutral. But here in the United States, this whole Christo-fascist movement where a certain party is really trying to upend the lives of women and is a detriment to the lives of women. Yeah, there's like, there is certain things that I just couldn't get along with. And that's not to say that all politicians on the left are amazing and let's go. No, the other side is literally harming women. So, but Stevie can live life how he wants to because he's not in the state. He or she is not in the States and probably isn't impacted by this type of thing. This person says, this is because you're rational. Aligning with politicians and parties is strange. I mean, okay, don't say that in America. You're going to get yelled at by everybody. I wouldn't yell. I do want to know where people stand, though. Sometimes these middle of the road people are the ones that are perfectly fine with stripping freedoms from people. So I do want to know that you're middle of the road. This person says, I personally try to screen people before dating because the political stance can absolutely be an issue. I also do tend to probe a bit to find out someone's stance beforehand without being too obvious. That's a good. This person says, I'd say you have to be generally in the same area to some degree on views when it comes to politics. I agree. You don't have to align 100%. That doesn't make sense. But things that are basic to my humanity, like I am a Black woman. So if you are anti Black and anti woman, we might have a problem. So people have to pick and choose what really sticks out for them. But I want to hear your stance on this. Like, for real. Go ahead, drop your stance. Comment. No wishy-washiness. Drop your stance. All right. Like, comment, share. It's political season. I'm scrolling Reddit and I see this in the teachers subreddit. She says, what are you going to do about Trump? What are you going to do about Trump? This is what they're asking in the teacher subreddit. I assume that this is something that has cropped up. My kids are not in public schools, so I wouldn't know, but this seems like an interesting question to broach. She says, here we go again. Genuinely curious what your approach is going to be for this election cycle. Would also love to know your location and whether or not your admin has given you direction. I suppose most of us will go with one of these options. A, ignore completely and hope no one mentions his name. B, cover it honestly like a normal presidential election, discussing policy differences, etc. C, cover it honestly, part 2, acknowledging he is under 91 felony indictments, convicted rapist, serial liar, and failed insurrectionist. D, she leaves open. You guys can fill in the blank. So I would like to know if you're in the school environment or even if you're in just a work environment, how are things being handled there? Please go ahead and chime in. I am genuinely curious. She says, my approach is simple, which is the facts are the facts. So I'll be doing option C. I found most students genuinely want to have conversations about current events and appreciate moderating the students who want to jump in from the fringes and dominate the conversation like they always do in the hallways. I remember the impeachments. They were so genuinely interested in how the process works, the system, etc., and they seemed starved from the non-hot take and simple facts only conversation. They also know I'm a great poker player, so my opinion is never going to be shown. What's your plans besides tequila? Edit. There is an astonishing number of people replying who in no way are reading the post or answering the questions. Answering the questions asked. And I believe that because it is Reddit. So, I'm going to read through some of these comments, but if they're not actually answering the question, I'm just going to leave that on the table for you guys in my network. How are you handling it? Let's go back and just examine her questions so that you can answer. Okay, how are you going to handle Trump? Are you going to completely ignore and hope no one mentions it? Cover it honestly, like a normal presidential election, discussing policy difference. C, cover it honestly while acknowledging all of the issues that he's facing. Or D, just fill in the blank here. Let me know how you're going to do it. This person says, I stay away from anything political. English teacher here because I have an entire spectrum. These kids do not know how to agree respectfully. Adults don't either, so I leave it out. This person says, and yet last year, a second and third grader were arguing. Okay. This person said, and yet last year, a second and third grader were arguing, debating whether or not COVID is real and respectfully. The COVID conversation started because of Band-Aids. Okay, so this person isn't answering the question. So let me move on. This person says, my sixth graders seem to be able to talk about it fine, though I expect a lot of that is because they all know they're ignorant and trying to learn rather than believing they know everything already. We had conversations about the Russian invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago and the Israel-Palestine war earlier this year. I try to stay objective, take it slow, and lead them into open-ended endings rather than having them reach a conclusion. We also talk about these things when they bring it up first. I never bring it into the classroom. Amazing. That's a great answer. And this person says, and they are recording you every day, every comment you make. Assume you're being recorded. That's fair too in this day and age. Okay, so this person says, I have had students who lean very far right and others who lean very far left. I have many that don't care and some that care but don't lean one way or another. Most often they share their parents' views. I can see that. That makes sense. Others feel differently than I do, and that's okay. But for me, my personal mission is to be an educator. I feel it is my job to educate all of my students, regardless of their political leanings or lack thereof. I try to be very careful not to say anything that would impair my ability to deliver on that. I think my students' perception of my political beliefs is something that would absolutely impair my ability to educate some of them. It would be nice if that isn't the case, but I think it is. I tell them that I vote and that it is absolutely in their best interest to educate themselves about the political process and vote when they turn 18. I tell them even as students, they can impact the political process, but I do not share who I vote for or who I like or dislike in an election. Instead, I give students a safe space to talk about who they like, who they support, and why. Having a viewpoint different from another person is okay, and that having different political views doesn't mean we can't still get along with one another, even though that's what many of us want to believe. So that is that's a very, very balanced approach, and definitely one that an educator should take, especially in a classroom where there are going to be multitudes of people and varieties of beliefs. I'm going to end it there, but I definitely want to know where you lean with this discussion. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. So this Reddit is a doozy, definitely a doozy. And like I keep saying about women doing these Am I the A-hole threads, they simply want validation for feeling normal human emotions. This woman says, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that his buddy's wife needing help is not my problem? Okay, so this is a throwaway account. She says, My husband and I live right next door to his friend Tim and his friend's wife, Jonah. I have a 4-year-old son and a 1-week-old daughter, so she has a newborn. Tim and Jonah have a 5-year-old and a 3-day-old boy, a 3-day-old. My labor went a lot smoother than hers did. She ended up needing an emergency hysterectomy, and she was bleeding out on the labor and delivery bed. They came home last night. Now, when they got home, Tim called my husband down to smoke a joint. And when he got back upstairs, he told me that Tim had asked him for a favor. Apparently, he was wondering if I would go over to his house periodically throughout the day while he was at work to check on his wife and do tasks for her, cooking, cleaning, keeping her company, as she was bedridden and feeling really down and depressed from the unexpected hysterectomy and the reality of not being able to have more children. Listen, I feel for the woman. I really do. But this is not my problem. I just had a baby myself a week ago, and even cooking for us is a chore in itself because of how exhausted I am. My husband said repeatedly, It's okay if you say no. I'm sure they would understand. But like, it'd be nice if you did this for them because I'm sure she could really use the company. And I know I'm being selfish, but I do not care if she could use the company. And I really feel backed into a corner and manipulated with wordplay. It's okay if you say no, but you should just say yes. And number one, this is not selfish. You are healing from having birth, from giving birth. This is not selfish to say no. She says that I'm getting really pissed off that I'm even asked this. I asked my husband why him or his buddy would immediately think I would be available to do this, considering I just had my own baby and I'm also taking care of our 4-year-old. He said, I understand that, but you're already up and doing things, and she can't even do that because she's bedridden. So she can't even make her kid food or anything. Anyways, I told him no. I told him I had a bad taste in my mouth about them attempting to back me into a corner for a yes answer with their guilt trips, and that if she was incapable of doing anything, Tim needed to step it up and either A, take time off from work, or B, start meal prepping and call someone else to come in to his home to do everything else. My husband and Tim work at the same job, and they were both given 4 days off when we went into labor. So he had time to try to figure this out, but instead he just tried pawning it off on me, thinking I would say yes. My husband said that he doesn't blame me for saying no, but that my attitude on it has caused tension between him and Tim because I'm acting heartless. Am I the a-hole for not caring that Jonah needs help and telling them is not my problem? She says, I just want to add here, I have met this woman twice or at most 15 minutes each time. My husband has only met her maybe 3 times. He only just started hanging out with Tim 4 months ago after he started working with him. Their friendship just grew super quickly because we coincidentally moved right beside them a month after they met. So I was tagged on this post. So if you do want to ever tag me on Reddit, I'm available at Bourbon Bougie. So this person said, it's the blatant disregard, disrespect, and audacity for me. Definitely not the a-hole. Both of these husbands are horrible. Exactly. They had 2 brains. They couldn't come up with an idea for both of their wives who might need a little help. They work, so they probably problem solve in their day-to-day lives. And remember, these are the logical leaders. They have a team, so they are the leaders. And they couldn't come up with something like help around the house, do some of these things, clean up, do something, cook, buy something, DoorDash, something, anything. Oh man, they wear me out. This person says, absolutely not the a-hole. You're a weak postpartum. People should be bringing you. Tell your hubby and his buddy to hire a caretaker to go to a church. My church offers services like this for people in need, or someone can take some time off work. I effing hate when people feel the need to be charitable with resources of other people. They both get to feel great about helping her out while you, still bleeding and postpartum, get to take on another household's chores. Absolutely. Volunteering someone else's time instead of just doing it. This is gross. And I'm not going to do all of these because obviously she's not the a-hole. Obviously she's not the a-hole, but I'll do this one. Not the a-hole. Your husband and his buddy are a-holes. They basically voluntold you to do this. This isn't your problem, responsibility, or business. Husband's buddy can hire someone or actually take time off to care for his wife and kid. Just because you live next to them doesn't mean anything. Next time they're having a meeting of the minds while smoking a joint, tell him to leave you out of any plans he or they have. Absolutely. I'll leave it there. This is a topic that we can discuss, but it's pretty evident that she is not the a-hole in this. And it's silly to even think she could remotely be an a-hole. But I would like to hear your thoughts on it. Go ahead. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.